Hello, I'd like to welcome you all. My name is Suzanne. I'm happy to share this session, and we have both filmmakers here. Andre's here, and how you pronounce your name properly, please? Can we hear us?
Are you talking to me? Sorry.
Yes.
Yeah. It's a little slow. The connectivity is a little bad. My name is Abhyuday.
Abhyuday. Okay, so pronounce it properly. Abhyuday. I'm happy that you are joining us as well on the screen to discuss these wonderful films which you brought to us. They are. Shall we have a seat? And they are here listed under the topic of museums. Of course, they are multi-layers, and but museum is a striking one, and I think it's timely for all of us because we are in a certain way rethinking museum here in Europe in particular, decolonizing, remaking, relearning museums in a certain way. And then in this context, these discussions and these voices we have from with Patricia, you brought us just in, and with Sonam chairing as well, and are very, very important for us because it gives us kind of ideas how community museums today might like to work, and we feel as well a bit, humble and rethinking how we want to contextualize culture, and we definitely feel like very much if I hear a sentence like you said it, culture in a cage or people in an aquarium, then I feel very much shocked. Of course, this is a reception, but it's not our intention to showcase this. So I'm very, very happy that we have you both here. Perhaps we start with your film because on screen, because we saw it first, and I realized that you finished your film in 2019, and if I'm right, I checked it up, Sonam Chering was just dying shortly afterwards on the 30th of July 2020. And so in a certain way, he had this mission in his film as well to bring his voices, his ideas, and using film as a medium of bringing this into a future as well. So perhaps you tell first us a bit about the project, how you met him, what was or how you came to the Sikkim village, and how you understand about the project, and then Andres does the same, and then we enter in a discussion.
Yes, thank you. I didn't get your name, sorry.
Suzanne. Sorry, my name is Suzanne.
Yes, Suzanne. Thank you. So I was introduced to the Lepcha tribe through a fiction project. I came across a book called Lepcha, My Vanishing Tribe. It was written by Mr. A.R. Fawning, who's a Lepcha, also based around that region. And he wrote this book discussing similar things. His point of view was that it was a dying and a vanishing culture. And that book, I found that book during my research for a fiction film. I was interested in Lepcha folk tales, and I was developing a story based around their folk tales, and they have a very strong the tradition of shamanism, if you may call it that. Like, there is a element of animism, like nature worship and shamanism. So I was doing that, and I came across this book, and that's how I got interested in more like detail in terms of finding out about other things in their culture. And in that process, I got to know of Sonam Sharing. And then I was lucky that he was performing. I used to live in Calcutta back then, and he was performing in Calcutta. So I went for the performance and I met him. And he that's where I got to know that he had written a song in protest against this particular book, the book Lepcha, My Vanishing Tribe. So he had written a song as a protest against that book. And the name of the song was Who Says the Lepchas Are Vanishing? It translated in English. So, I found that that really, sort of got me interested in him. And, I found this song and this, the whole, actually, the song is what drew me to him. The music is what drew me to him and his, life. And then I traveled to his place in Kalimpong, and I saw his museum. And yeah, that was the beginning of the project.
Yeah, thank you very much. We can later come back to this because perhaps you tell us how Patricia, who is not here today, and as a background of the project, and then we can enter in a discussion.
Of course. So, Patricia, I didn't meet her before the film. Actually, it's a very different situation for me because usually I have like a friendship with indigenous friends, and then after that we produce a film, and it was the way around. Like we produced the film, and then we became friends. Yes, I knew all her films before, and I was a big fan of her work also. And then Patricia went to New York, and fortunately I was there like doing an internship of my PhD in Universidade of São Paulo. And so at that time I was asked like to be with Patricia, and me and Joana, like to follow her, to translate her also in some situations. And so Joana came up with the idea, let's record some things that we can ask Patricia if she wants. Let's talk about it. And then Patricia liked the idea. And in the beginning, we didn't think about a film, a documentary, but her speeches and the situations, they were so powerful. And then we began to think about a film. And we also like a lot of times we asked her like if she wanted to film also with us. So the only time she accepted the camera to film was in that situation, Times Square, with the pigeons. And I think that Patricia is one of the rare cases when someone is very good behind the cameras and in front of the cameras too. So and for us, we were like recording a filmmaker also, like making a film about a portrait about a filmmaker. And also we didn't want to, because we are not sure if the film is going to be like a great film. Patricia didn't want to direct with us, and that was, for us, was like, okay, because if the film went bad, it wouldn't damage her career, you know? So we did in this, we did this produce like that. I don't know if I answered the question, the first question. I think that.
Are there questions from your side? That's a good opportunity now to ask questions about the background or the story. Do I see any hands? Not that. Oh, yes, they are coming out of. Can you pass the mic? There was one or two for the moment.
Hello, thank you for sharing your films. I quite enjoyed them both. And I have, let's say, one question that you both can answer in a way. You have a main protagonist, and I think it's a very classical question, but have they seen your final cut, and what did they think of it? Because, for example, in the first film that we saw, you mentioned that he already passed away. So did he have a chance to see it? And yeah, for the second film, you said you were afraid that, or at least that's what I got, like when it went bad, that she didn't want to be as much involved. So what did they think about your works, your protagonists?
Okay. Thank you very much for the question, because it was right the point that I forgot to say in the last question. So we stayed together for 4 days in New York, doing uh, the filmings. And then, so Patricia came back to Brazil, and then we start a process of like months in the editing room. And we sent to her a lot of times the material. And then she cut it, some scenes that she didn't like. And I was pretty happy, because at the end of the work, she liked the work. Also, she asked us to present the work and some other presentations that she did, because she told us that some formulations that she spoke in the film, she liked. I think that mostly the last part, when she analyzed the city and the way the rhythm, right? She liked a lot it. So I think that yeah, we were glad to make the final cut with her. And yeah, she's using the film. So for us is the most important thing.
Yeah, now the question, would Sonam sharing use the film? I felt sometimes, that's why I want to ask you a little additional question, that somehow he was actually using you with your film project as well to take his heritage and his mission into the wider world. So has he seen the film, or do you feel had he a chance to authorize it, or did he already by doing the film with you?
Yeah, it's a very emotional question, because uh, he we finished the film, and I wanted to. There was no way, he lives in a remote village near Kalimpong, and there's no way, the communication is very bad. So I was actually on my way in, to organize a screening and take the film to Kalimpong to show it to him and to a few more people in the community, everyone who was in the film. But there was a lockdown, so COVID happened, and in March there was a lockdown, and then then I was uh, like because it was a outside like I wasn't the producer, the films division of India, they were the producers, and I didn't really have much uh, in terms. I had thought that it's well, I've done the film. It was my idea. It was something that I wanted to do, and they supported it. But after the film was done, and especially with this lockdown and everything, I had kind of uh, thought that I don't have anything more to do with the film. So films division will be taking their decisions and sending it to festivals, etc. And then what happened was on 30th July, Sonam Sharing passed away during the lockdown, and obviously, I mean, even though it's not official, but there was something with COVID. But uh, I got to know from news, from like, because the Prime Minister of India tweeted that condolences to Sonam Sharing's family, and because he was a national awardee and stuff. So when I got to know of the news, then I called his son, and then he said yes, he passed away. And within a few days, by chance, like on my search, festival, Calcutta International Film Festival popped up, and I thought that yeah, I should be a little more proactive and send this film out, because he passed away. It sort of pushed me into sending the film out, and that's when I started sending it to festivals. So yeah, in a way, I felt the same thing, that he did use me as a tool to make this film just before he passed away. I did have this very strong feeling, and I still do. Uh, so these are the strange things that happen in life and filmmaking, I guess.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, that was very insightful. Any other? You had another question here in front. Please take it, please.
Hello. I have a question for Abhyuday and another one for André. For Abhyuday, you were telling us now that for him, that you think that he was thinking that the film would be something important before he died. Did he also ask you to do specific things for the museum archive, or was he thinking about video as a way to like preserve their culture inside the museum? That's one question. And for André, can you maybe explain us how you came to get interested in this thematic about indigenous film, and tell us a bit about the story, because I saw that you have collaboration in different films in this festival, like 3, I think. So I was curious that you could tell us a bit more about your own research.
Perhaps we start with you, and then because the other question leads over to the afternoon conference already.
Should I answer first?
Yes, please.
Yes,
Please.
yes, sorry. Yeah. So, yeah, I think Sonam sharing was, he wasn't really thinking so much about how it will uh, translate. I think it was the reason why I felt later that maybe he was using. Actually, it's not him and not a conscious thing that I think he was doing. I think it was something else that was probably, he was it was working through him. But the reason why I felt like that is because uh, during the process of the film, he didn't really know what I was doing. He In the beginning he didn't really sort of know what I was doing and why I was doing it. But I think over the course of the making of the film, he something changed, and he started talking, and he started behaving like he is giving and he's sharing much more than he wanted to. It's very interesting. If I have the time, I would like to share this. That the first time I went to his museum, he did this whole routine, and he had created the museum, but he is also a performer, and he does this entire routine of taking you through the museum. So he puts on the Lepcha costume. Otherwise, he's not wearing the entire costume. He's just maybe sometimes wearing the hat, but otherwise he's wearing a shirt and trousers and like a regular normal wear. But when he's in the museum and when some guests come, then he puts on the Lepcha costume, and then he has a whole routine of instruments, and then this, and then one war thing, and then the whole story also, and which I've seen him repeat with many people who come to the museum. So the first time when I went and I shot him in the museum, he did that routine, and I think that's all he expected, that I'll shoot the routine and that's it, and that'll be the film. But as we kept shooting, he just kept opening up and started. It felt like he was kind of unknowingly sharing many things, which are a lot of it is not there in the film, in the final film. But I think that is what I came out with, that there was something working through him, I guess, which because he also was uh, old when we made this film. He was already 93, so I think, but he was sharp. When he communicated, he was quite sharp, and he would lose track and he would forget and he would come back. But he he had some sense of what was happening, which yeah, I don't know.
Thank you. When I saw him, I was a bit remembered of another old facilitator in filmmaking, Colin Young. Some of you knew him, or he passed away last year. And on the entrance of the National Film and Television School, it says now, filmmakers are missionaries or should be missionaries for a better way of life. In a certain way, this is what we are doing, and he as well, in a certain way. I was somehow remembered about when I saw Sonam on screen, and I thought, okay, Colin was a facilitator as well and had a mission. Okay, but now to the question which Katrina asked you, which in a certain way is very good because it opens up already what we do at this festival in particular, that we're going to have participatory workshops and talking about not only about people, but with the people as well, which is actually quite good.
Nice. Thank you very much, Katarina, for the question. Actually, so my research is with Manoki and Minki people. The work with Patricia had not didn't have connections with the PhD research at first. Actually, in the video workshops that I conducted in Minki and Manoki villages, we used some Patricia films also to show the filmmakers they have also inspiration of different cinema languages that they could use in the films. And so we already knew her work in this sense, and there is one specific film that she did, Us in the City, that was in this film, and also Two Villages, One Path, that we used a lot in one of the films that we produced in Manoki village, the Vence Pequi, because at that time, for example, the filmmakers, they were like kind of having difficulties to find characters. And then they watched this Patricia film, and then they realized that they themselves could be the protagonists of the film, for example. So we have these past connections with this work, but also when I went to New York, I could picture like a broader scene of the indigenous cinema. I was very interested in other kinds of indigenous cinema too that they do in North America, in other countries, Australia, New Zealand, and also other people in Brazil. Like the Guarani. The Guarani filmmakers are very great. They do amazing films. And when Patricia went to the museum, and what she did, like we saw these powerful speeches. They were like kind of reversal anthropology in the sense of Roy Wagner described, because she can like deconstruct the way in which the people are represented and the strategies of the colonial museum. So she really does this reversal anthropology. And then when she deconstructs and she criticizes all of those things, and mostly the careless relationship that the museum has with the native communities, in which they take the objects or stole the objects. Patricia gave us this very critical view, perspective, in an indigenous perspective. And because of that, there is an interesting point in this film. So we were under the supervision of Faye Ginsburg at that time, and Faye Ginsburg also helps to organize the Margaret Mead Film Festival. And then the next year, she indicates the film to be part of the festival. And then the main board of the museum censored the film. Yes. So they told that the museum, that was like a film that was uncomfortable for the museum. And it was very contradictory because like in the year that Patricia presented her work, The name of the festival was Resilience in Motion. So like celebrating the indigenous protagonism and other perspectives. So I think that it brought us a lot of reflections about museums and until what point they are really interested in opening the institution and to receive those critics. And also there is an interesting concept that it's the contact zones in museums. Like usually museums use this cultural internship most for their own purposes, not for the the indigenous questions. So it was a very strong thing for us. Also, Vincent Carelli, when he came back there the next year, he asked, "What about Patricia's film? I would like to watch it here." But yeah, it was censored by the directors of the museum.
So it wasn't.
Wasn't, yeah. And we are very happy that at least in Europe, you here in Kiev and also in Ray Festival, they showed the film, and we were like really happy. And we also always that we have the chance, we talk about the situation of this.
I didn't know this, so I could carry on about this. But first, are there other questions from the floor, from you, which we want to be having the chance to have Abhyuday and Andres here? Please go ahead, ask questions now, because no question for the moment. And I think this is actually, I found this, I didn't know this. Of course, you were this film was shortlisted for the Ethnomusicology Prize at the AI Festival, and you got the Short Film Prize. And particularly, I think because of these arguments in both of these films, they are so important at the moment. And this is why we want to have these kind of strong arguments and voices and ideas going into our discussions, how museum or how, and in a certain way, museums and films are they're both visual anthropology, they're very near to each other. And museums always have been a showcase for anthropology, as are films, in particular in the UK, perhaps with the Disappearing World. So I think we should be very open and hold out and accept these comments and these critiques. And I think particularly I'm a bit disappointed at the moment, because in a certain way, the Margaret Mead Festival, I always say it's for the museum, a showcase for all these voices. And it sounds like it was rather a pretext to do whatever they want and have this kind of the fest. But we don't discuss this now. Anyway, but I think it is actually very important, and we are happy to have these voices, and we have to accept them, and we want to work with them and having new ideas, because this is the future at the moment. And I think there's so important movements going about in museos comunitarios or mobile museums in Africa. And we have to really rethink what we're doing, actually, what is a museum. And I think both examples, or particularly your example, is quite interesting as well, how they would build up their own kind of collecting of objects in museum cases. So do you want to have any final words? Because I think we have to finish soon. Yeah, we have. Do you have a final sentence or word you want to talk? Actually, he and Patricia, they would easily have met, perhaps, because they both were part of the Berlinale campus camp. So, but I think it was in different years. So you didn't have a chance to be in the same year, I think, it was slightly later. So what is your final sentence to us, or greetings to us with your film message, what you're doing now as this?
I think the only thing, because you mentioned this thing with the museum, and I see that it's such an important thing with your organization and your point of view, that I would like to mention, because this hasn't come up in all the screenings so far. This focus on the museum hasn't happened. It's somehow been about the Lepcha tribe and Sonam sharing and all, but for me, the idea did start with the museum, and the point was that I saw, it might be a very wrong notion, but what I saw was that here, when you put something in a museum, you know, uh, when I take an object and put it in a museum, uh, in a way, I'm saying that it is not in use, because you know I've only seen in the museum, when I've gone to the museum, I've seen things that are not in use anymore, that are from antiquity, from earlier period in time. So when I saw Sonam sharing, and on the one hand, he was creating a museum, and with all the Lepcha artifacts. On the other hand, he was the symbol of the Lepcha culture, and he was saying, that it is not dying, it is not dead, it is not vanishing. So, this contradiction of, on the one hand, preserving a culture, or holding on to a culture, creating a culture, and on the other hand, also to create a museum which is saying that, is it over? Because it is, all the objects in the museum are not used anymore. Most of the objects that he has in his museum are not really used anymore. They are. So that contradiction is what was interesting, and that's how it started. And I think uh, I'm grateful that you focus on this museum aspect of the film. And also, I think it was wonderful to have these questions, which have been important to me, finally come out, and that I could answer them, about how it started, about Sonam sharing, passing away, because these are important questions. And somehow, in the you know during COVID, like I couldn't really participate in any of the festivals. I think in only the RAI. The Royal Anthropological Festival, there was a question and answer session, but I think it really, and it was again a completely online session. So here I see a live audience, and it is a wonderful thing to be able to experience this. I'm going for my first live screening in the Mumbai International Film Festival next week. So this is wonderful. Thank
This
you.
thank you goes to our wonderful technical team, which really makes this festival, giving this kind of online and on-site, a very, very important lively situation. Okay, I think we are really short with time. I think what you can have as a final word, but I think somehow this discussion is going to lead us into and sorry that you are not with us, Abhyuday, into the afternoon, and all our following, like in the conference workshops as well, which we can actually carry on this kind of discussions. Unless you want to have a final word, and then we say thank you to everybody and have a nice, see you later.
Thank you very much. I would just say that I didn't answer Katarina's question properly, but I will try to do that during the presentation at 4 o'clock. And just to mention also that there is a movement in New York. It's called Decolonize This Place. They occupy the American Museum of Natural History every year on Columbus Day. And they make a lot of noise, and like they have a lot of protests, and they make this critical analysis in a lot of places that they choose that are so critical. And it's very, very interesting. I think that you can follow them on the social networks, social media, I'm sorry. And then also it's a pity that they have a lot of work ahead to decolonize.
It's a process which has started.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much all, and to you both. It's a wonderful film.